Welcome to another episode of the Waffle Shop podcast. It's another special one because I'm actually joined in person with the person I'm waffling with. It's actor, singer-songwriter, model, and probably was going to be my new best friend after this.
Oh,
It's Charlie Georgio.
thank you for having me, dude.
Welcome to the Waffle Shop.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited.
It's weird for me because we said it before we hit the record button about like the journey and like getting here and stuff. And what I know you from is obviously Fortune, and having you here now after kind of connecting with you from like watching you on TV is really surreal for me.
That's
So
awesome.
thank you for being here.
No, thank you, mate. I appreciate it, man. Like, and it's cool. Like, you watch the show and stuff. I've been watching your stuff and just I know that when you can tell that the energy is good and it's gonna be a good so. Yeah, so I was really excited to do this, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
I mean, this all sounds very, very like nice and stuff, but I do start each one of my shows with something called the Weekly Waffle, which quite frankly is something that's pissed me off.
Yeah.
Once I've got in front of my guests and I talk about it, it's supposed to make me feel better. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but life's a fucking roller coaster. But one of the things that's really irritating me, and it happened this morning, and it was out there, and it's people who use their loudspeaker in public when they're on the phone.
Oh, you're gonna hate me. I did it for about 20 seconds on the train today. For about 20 seconds. No,
Get out.
No. Sorry, no. Do you know what? No. It wasn't a speaker. Sorry, I played a voice note, but it was while I was about to put my headphones in. But I remember being aware of it. Some guy looked and I quickly put it in. But yeah, well, it's just one of those. I think it's risky.
Yeah, it's risky. You don't know what that person's going to say.
Yeah. It could go completely wrong for anybody. Yeah, no, I feel you. It's kind of, what is it about it that do you think annoys you about it?
I think it's just, I think it's because some of the things that I would say to my friends would be a little bit like, probably shouldn't say, but like everyone has those kind of thoughts and stuff like that. So when the thought of being on loudspeaker really badly like puts the fear into me. So the fact that people are walking around without a care in the world.
That's true.
On loudspeaker, I mean.
So basically there's two things. It's like it could happen to you and you'd hate that, and also basically have some respect for the people around you. They might not want to hear
exactly
what it is you're talking about.
But then saying that, I am very nosy. So then I was instantly like, oh.
So did you get attached to it? I didn't use invested in the phone call, bro.
No way.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if that was me, I would do this. I was like, fully invested in that.
I love that if you just actually pulled him to the side and said, listen, I was just listening.
Yeah.
I think you should really go about it this way.
Come in and take a seat. Let's talk about it.
Just end up doing a whole podcast with a random guy. That's sick. That's funny though, man. That's funny. What other things really like kind of irk you?
Oh, don't. Loud eaters.
Like, no, you know what? There's something about it where it really irritates. It's just like, and there's some foods that just you can't not.
Yeah.
Like, I think they've done some studies that show that it is actually a thing though that does actually annoy people. It's not like something where you're just being an arse about it.
Yeah.
It is actually a proven thing that the sound of chewing in one's ear can actually like irritate you. So scientifically,
I was like, I felt like I was watching a TED talk or something.
Yeah. It's just me, man.
Is there anything that gets on your nerves that you'd like to get off your chest today?
Do you know what just actually gets on my nerves? Yeah, I would be straight. Just basic, like when people are just like rude, man. Like just in day-to-day life, you might be having a bad day. I get that, it's cool, but like it doesn't hurt to be kind, man. And I know that sounds like the most cliche one, man, but
no, but it's a very powerful stance though with it, isn't it? Because it's like that whole kind of saying of like, you don't know what someone's going through. So if you're kind of little bit of act of rudeness or however you want to kind of portray it might actually be the thing that tips someone over the edge to be like, fuck this.
100%, man. And I remember there was like when it was a really weird moment where I was in the train station one time, and it was when I was smoking cigarettes, and I asked one of the ladies at work there if I could borrow a lighter, and she just looked at me. And it was like this really weird moment where we were just looking at each other, and I said, sorry, do you have a lighter? And she was still looking. And then even a work colleague said like, Sarah. And then the other one just went, here you go, mate, I've got a lighter. And I just thought, and she was like, what? I didn't hear him. And I just thought that's so weird. I was a bit, yeah, I think I was a bit like, I'd maybe had a drink or something, so I didn't really know how to like, but it really annoyed
Yeah.
me for like the rest of the day. I just
But
thought
it's
so
quite
rude.
clearly, it's those things, isn't it? That even now, that sticks in your mind because then it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like, did I do something
Oh no,
I shouldn't have done then?
I've just been waiting for the day that we meet again at the station, so I can just pull out a lighter and say, I don't need your lighter.
I got my own
Yeah.
lighter.
Nah, you know, one of those little things like that. Just like, well, what was the need? Like, what was your point to prove that day? Are you having a bad day? Is that your shit?
Yeah.
And with that sort of situation, I genuinely just think that person isn't happy within themselves. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of the time what it is, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I've realized people that often spew negativity and hate and all that sort of stuff, there's something going on within themselves, yeah, where like they're not happy with themselves, so they project it on other people. So if anything, they're probably just struggling with something, probably just need some work or something.
No, I agree with that. And I think it's a difficult place to kind of get to recognize that, because I think we're both guilty of that at some point of
Yeah,
in our lives.
man.
I mean, we've all been at those kind of stages.
No one's perfect.
But kind of get to a stage where you're like, oh, okay, my behavior was a little bit thingy then, but then, do you know what I mean? Like you kind of move on with it, like you go from it. Speaking of obviously kind of like behavior and stuff, one of the things obviously I wanted to talk to you about from Tempting Fortune is what was the driving force for signing up to it? Because for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's on Channel 4. I was hooked straight away. Like, I think I started watching it by accident.
That's sick. That's how it happens.
Yeah, and I was like, the concept of that show. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's basically a bunch of people, they've been sent on a trek through South Africa, I think it was. And dotted throughout the journey, there was like experiences. But if you took those experiences, it came with quite a hefty price kind of,
Yeah.
and then which deducted it from everyone.
So it's split between everyone. You all start with a certain amount of money, and if you take these temptations, it doesn't just come out of your money; it comes out of everybody's money. So now it's kind of like everyone's kind of what do they say? Got you by the balls, how they say.
Yeah.
Like everyone's kind of got this hold on you. Yeah. So to answer the question, how I signed up, I'll be straight. So originally, so I pull this forward.
Yeah, get comfy.
So originally, the person that cast me for it actually asked me to go on a different show, and that show was X on the Beach. And
Oh,
I was like, I know, and I
wow.
was like, look, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's not really me. And plus, I don't actually have an ex anyway, so I'd have
Yeah.
to ask some random girl, yo, do you wanna
Just
some
come out the
random
water.
girl I like hooked up with one time, just one time, can you pretend to be my ex? She's gonna be like, piss off. So he said, okay, all right, man, no worries. And I said, but listen, if you do have anything that you think's a bit more me, hit me up, please. And he was like, cool, man, I got you. And then like 2 weeks later, I get a call and he's like, all right, man, I think I've got something for you. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, 12 strangers hiking through the wilderness in South Africa. And I went, I'm in, bro. I said, no, I'm down. I said, I'm not. I said, I'm so down. Then he went on to tell me about the temptation bit. And I said, yeah, that's cool. But then it really became something awesome because I love adventure.
Yeah.
And I'm also someone that likes to challenge my body. Like I've got really into that whole thing in the recent years about like, you know, pushing myself and stuff like that. Cause I feel like it gives you a real natural high. So yeah, so it was like, okay, do you know what? And then as it got more and more, it became a deeper thing. It wasn't just, oh, okay, yo, you just hiking through South Africa. Originally, it was like, I've always wanted to go to the continent of Africa, always wanted to see South Africa, wilderness, hiking, that's amazing. Then it was like, well, hold on a sec. Because tempting fortune, when you deep it, right, is actually really deep because in society, yeah, it's filled with temptations. You can go on a Friday night, out on a Friday night and drink loads. You can end up drinking, and you could even end up, for some people, they take party drugs.
Yeah.
There's party drugs. You can be on your phone and watching pornography every day. You can be on your phone online gambling every day. There's so many temptations, right, in modern society. And also what I think is really wild is if we take it back to the story of Adam and Eve, that was almost like the first human interaction was a temptation of taking the forbidden fruit. So I really feel like tempting fortune kind of has actually a deep rooted connection with modern society about, okay, well, why don't we just take human beings and throw them in a really extreme condition and then see what they're really tempted by and what they really see as valuable and stuff like that. So
it was because it wasn't even just like the, like obviously the African heat. Obviously, I imagine it was like ridiculously hot, but you were also doing like challenges
oh
and like
man,
very kind of push you to your limit challenges.
bro, like it was really intense. And on top of that, you're wearing these massive rucksacks, which are really like heavy, yeah. And yeah, the heat is different out there, man. We just as the journey was coming to an end was when the real summer started, and I could tell I was like, wow, if we had to do this for 18 days, it would have been really intense. But yeah, it's the going to a toilet in a bucket. It's the shower room with cold water in a bucket. It's the every day you've got a new bite. You've got some weird thing. I had a really embarrassing moment. Well, I say embarrassing, I think it's funny, where basically I ended up getting a prickly pear. Well, I say I ended up getting, I found a prickly pear. And it was this one moment where I felt like, I could want this, man. It was a beautiful prickly pear that was just left on this one tree. And I was looking around and no one was there. And I've gone and picked this prickly pear and then I put it in my pocket. Stupidly, within 5 seconds, realized you're an idiot. All these spikes went into my pocket, got caught. So then I had all these spikes in my groin. And then, out of annoyance and anger, by the way, I was having a really bad day that day. It was the first day where all my energy had gone.
Yeah.
I got really annoyed. Then I went, oh, idiot. And I just got this big water tank and I just threw it on the floor and it just bounced up and hit me back in the face and busted my lip. And it was that moment where it was like, I'd just been that done over by myself that I kind of just stopped and all my anger just went. So then I just waddled back with cactus spikes in my groin and a busted lip. And I just said, let's just carry on, man. Like one of those. But sorry, I go off on
No,
tangents,
you're
man.
on the perfect show for it. This is what it's for, because
The waffle,
yeah, exactly. This is what I find so interesting about the journey, and especially like your time on the show, because I imagine it was very testing kind of conditions anyway, and it was almost like the version of you that went in wasn't quite the same version of you that came out.
yeah,
Like I feel like there was moments, especially just as a viewer. I mean, I could be completely wrong here. Um, that you learn a lot about yourself,
100%.
about like, about your limits, about like certain characteristics and stuff like that. And it was almost like it was actually really nice to watch. There was moments when you were like, oh God, but then until you're in that situation, you don't know how you're going to kind of like react.
It's so easy for, like when you're sitting on a Friday night or whatever, when you're sitting on your sofa at home to watch and be like, oh, I wouldn't take that or I'd take that. And that's part
Mm,
of TV, right? But yeah, you do. It really does. You kind of have to channel. I mean, my whole thing was avoid the temptation. So I really had to kind of channel this in a sort of like warrior mode, man. And I
yeah.
did. I felt like I was like, survivor, what, like just, and I went a bit intense in there. I mean, at one point, I found the skull of like a dead animal and like found some like some plant and wrapped it and strapped it to a bamboo stick. And I just ended up
Just like,
walking around with, and like I just looked like it had gone crazy in the experiment.
oh my God,
The
did
best thing
you
if they saw
handle
me
this well?
talking to it, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, you do, man. It does. You do. It pushes you into places. Also, you're forced. You've got to have dialogue with people. You got to be not afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
And I think that's why. So, like, for people that watched it, know that me and a girl called Liney went at it, right? And me and Liney basically were just playing two different like sides of the journey.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, me and Liney are cool, man. Like, should we?
It was interesting to see because it was like from day one. I think Annie was just the one who took the milkshake
Yeah, yeah. She
from
set
day one
she set the
straight
game,
in.
mate. She
She was
set the
like,
game
"I'm
up,
good."
mate.
And it wasn't until that happened, because obviously you're kind of getting used to the format of the show, and then when that
Yeah.
happened, you're like, even I was at the TV like, "Why the hell has she just done that? Like what?" But then as it kind of goes on, you start like, "Well, it's kind of like once in a lifetime, isn't it? It's like you're there once. Do you take the temptations?" But then it's like, but then the kind of experiences I could get with the money that I would get from the show is like a whole new world. It would honestly, I don't know how you did it.
So it's so funny, man, when you say the once in a lifetime thing, because that was a really big saying that was going around the
Yeah.
camp, right? It was a thing, and it is like it's a thing, isn't it? It's well, look, it is once in a lifetime if you deep the fact that you're never going to be on a TV show like that again, and
Mm,
you're not going to be, and have the be in a weird artificial set. That is once in a lifetime. The way I'd fight against that thought is, well, in my head, I'm saying, well, you're spending all this. I was like, I'm with 12 strangers. I'd rather go and do this on myself anyway, do
Yeah.
my own thing. But yeah, that sets the tone. And the weird thing is, and it's really interesting, is throughout the journey of the series, it's watching the way the actual public's view changed. So at first they were against Lani taking a milkshake. Then they started to side with Lani and the others, saying about how, okay, let them live. They started being against me and say people like James and Luke saying we were bullies and stuff like this. And then I think, so then they were against us like for a while. And then I think after the fourth episode where they realized that this other group, when we'd been split up, just literally took every temptation.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting, bro, is it's an experiment. And I think those temptations were taken out of spite more than anything. It was a way of saying you can't,
But it was almost like a middle finger to the
the
kind of element.
controllers,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, because if that's the case, to be on their side, then it does just show the different aspects and thoughts of the opinion of the group. Because if that's how they viewed us as like these controllers, then it's mad.
That's on them,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing as well.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's the way that they view. One of the things that I actually got really annoyed about this kind of label that seemed to kind of get attached to your name whilst you're on the show was the whole toxic masculinity thing.
Ah, dude, yeah,
And it
man.
really kind of like it pissed me off because it was just like you were on your own journey in
Mm,
there. And if for whatever reason, like you were going through it like one of those days, like you mentioned the day with like the pair and stuff like that. But there was like almost moments where you could see the frustration,
mm,
and it's like, well, yeah, I'm learning about myself, I'm learning about other people, how to kind of play the game, and kind of like I guess navigate through those difficult days. And then all of a sudden, it got labeled with this like very heavy like that. Oh, that's toxic. It was like, well, I don't think it actually was toxic. I think it was just you were trying to figure it out, and there was a lot of frustration there. And it was just like, nah, like I don't know, obviously how you felt, but as a viewer, it actually really irritated me that that's what it got labeled as.
it's really refreshing to hear you say that, really genuinely, because at
Mm,
the time when you are like hearing that, you're like, whoa, well, what's going on? Because let's be real, the environment within itself is toxic, but there was no toxic masculinity. I mean, there was never toxic masculinity when I was going back down hills and helping people get up. There's no toxic masculinity when,
mhm,
I'd carry the water canisters longer than everyone else and like, take it off them as well if I saw them struggling. But it was apparently only toxic masculinity when I urged people not to take temptations. And the toxic masculinity thing, man, that's wild, dude, because like it's just an offense to my mum, really. Like my mum raised me, so like I respect all human beings, in that environment. Though the environment within itself is toxic,
mm.
there's no escaping any toxicity in there. You're around people that are irritating you. You're gonna get annoyed by people. Look, man, when you're hungry, dude, and you're tired, people's faces piss you off more. Okay, it's not just like, oh, everyone wakes up smiling. You have to you have to kind of just live with each other. But yeah, the toxic masculinity thing was pretty wild. I mean, I don't see what I did that was so like for them to say it. Was it
What
because
annoyed me about it the most is because I've always kind of struggled to show my emotion, whether it's good, bad, like anything. And then until I started this journey of like self-discovery and started talking about it, and then I realized like, well, it's okay for me as a man to show my emotions. And then it was almost like when I was watching it, it was like you were passionate, like you were showing emotion, like you were trying to navigate that yourself. And it's like which I think as men, like we should be champion, like, whether it is happy, whether it is, not necessarily like anger, be like finding a way how to kind of navigate the anger, giving the people like the tools to then almost like show a bit of emotion, then to be labeled as that. We're just going backwards because we should be allowed to show that emotion. But do you know what I mean? It's like we need that kind of like outlet. So
$100%?
that's kind of why it annoyed me.
No, dude, you're so true, and I think it goes on to like bigger things, man. Because I mean, okay, look, I was 25 when I'm on it. I guess I learned that I'm just a very passionate
Mm,
person, and I kind of do just think out loud. I mean, not necessarily think out loud, but I yeah, I'm passionate about my thoughts and opinions,
mhm.
right? Um, but yeah, I guess it's about you gotta be able to speak your mind, man. Or
Yeah.
else if you bottle it up, I don't know, dude. Like what
Well,
happens? We
well,
fester and
exactly.
shit. Like it's
I'm sat here as like if I hadn't. Just wait for that to go
it's right.
past.
What
But
about
yeah,
for yourself? Have you
yeah.
ever been through that where you felt like you've been bottling up
Well,
emotions?
I did. Like, I bottled everything up to a point where, like, I'm not gonna lie, it got to a point where, like, I didn't want to
Mm,
continue, like, going forward. And that's not a case of me saying I didn't want to continue, like, living. I didn't want to continue living my life the way it was being lived. So if I hadn't explored those emotions, or if I didn't have that outlet or kind of let those emotions out, I dread to think where I would be. And the fact that, there is situations that where you do kind of like get those kind of things off your chest, and it's labeled with almost like a negative kind of lid, I guess. It's almost like, well, I'd run that risk of being scared
mm.
to talk about emotions or share like any kind of form of aspect of like how passionate I was about a subject or anything. I think it's quite a dangerous label to give.
100% is, and going off what you said as well, dude. I think it can be quite lonely to be a man sometimes, man. I mean, it would be quite lonely because it is a matter of you got to figure stuff out for yourself. I mean, yeah, it's so wild
What was the biggest lesson, do you think, that you learned from your time on there?
that I'm built different now. Joking. Nah,
Not to piss in a
what did I
bucket.
learn? I learned that actually, I learned just going off what we've said
Mm,
there, if there's something that's niggling you, speak about it, man. I'm not afraid, like, just like have dialogue, like literally just, so the best ways to sort things were when things annoyed me, um, instead of like just getting on with it, we'd talk about it. And I felt even more, better after that, man.
mhm.
And also learned that I can put my mind to stuff. Like it's so weird coming back into society, like the normal stuff, bro. Like it's even harder for me to kick the vape now, but in there I kicked everything, man.
Yeah,
So it's like, but basically it just shows what your ability is.
yeah,
Like everyone there was different, yeah. And look, not everyone there was, say, people that go to the gym. Not everyone there was people that were into that stuff. But in a way, they kind of still put themselves in a position and situation that was uncomfortable.
yeah.
Um,
Which is commendable, to be
yeah,
fair.
man, 100%. It's just at the time you get frustrated, don't you?
Yeah,
You get invested in what you're doing and stuff. But, looking back, I was looking at these treks and I was just thinking, you know what? Yeah, for the people that didn't actually do any sort of physical activity, they must have actually been physically hurting.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then you got us guys saying, "Come on, guys, you got this," and they're thinking, "Fuck you," right? You know what I mean?
Almost
I'm
like
just
whipping
saying,
them
like,
up the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tail.
But yeah, definitely that, man. But again, like I say, I really do think it ties into my like society, bro. There's so many
Mm,
temptations, man. Everywhere I look, it's just everywhere: online gambling, pornography, um, drugs, drinking. It's everywhere,
yeah,
man. Like, and it's like I think that's what life's about. I think it's about having to have the strength to turn
yeah.
temptations down, man. And yeah,
If you got the chance to kind of do it again with this kind of like the lessons that I guess that you've learned from it, and that this like mindset that you have, would you do it differently, or would you do it exactly the same?
well, look, there's two ways. If I'd done it again and I'd already won the money I won, maybe I would just splurge it all.
Yeah.
Now, I actually told myself if I did it again, I'd do the full thing, man.
Yeah.
I'd do the full thing. It's good for you, bro. In a way, you come back out and you look and you're like, whoa, I'm just like, it's crazy. There's an empowerment feeling, man. It's cool.
Mm,
But like as people know that watched it, when I'd won the money, pardon me, on the 17th day, 16th or 17th day, when the game changed and said that we could now split the money, I was in two minds. But then I really started to realize, dude, you came in here to avoid temptation to win the money, and I think I did good, man.
I,
Pardon
I
me.
think you genuinely you handled an environment like that, and like I said to you when like I first like messaged you about like even coming on the show and stuff. Oh no, yeah. Anyway, you're on my hit list anyway
Yeah,
to
yeah,
come on
yeah,
the show,
yeah.
and basically I was drawn to you because there was like a certain element that of myself that I saw
Sick.
on that kind of journey, and it was almost like I'm like this with music as well. I'm like it with lyrics, like the people
Mhm.
like sing things that I can never say. and like they communicate things. So almost like watching you on that show to me was like, I'm allowed to show my emotion. I'm allowed to be passionate about things. I'm allowed to kind of like my voice to be heard. So stuff like that, like I genuinely like you carried yourself like incredibly well on it.
Thank you,
And
brother.
coming out of the show then, like, you know, because we talk about like coping mechanisms a lot on the show, and you know, I've picked up some of my biggest ones from having conversations like this. Is there anything that when things do get like a little bit like pressurized that you do lean towards now? Obviously, I know you said about like going to the gym and like pushing yourself. What does that look like?
So I do have to use the gym because it's the only thing that can save me at the moment, man. I say save me, but I mean it's the only thing that keeps me sane.
Mhm.
Um, I used to when growing up, like my early 20s and stuff, partying a lot, and like I really hate that stuff, man. I know that it shapes you up and goes on a journey, but like in terms of that, man, like I'm not gonna lie, like dude, like I feel it, man. I feel like I've got like these weird mood swings, man. Like where one day I feel amazing, yeah, and the next day all of a sudden I just feel like really like dark down and just like what's going on, man, and
Mm.
like so I've been looking into that, and I think it's just about a balance. There's something going on there, so I just want to try and I think you know, just being present in the moment, being content. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the journey, isn't it? Really, man. That's the obstacle. I think maybe when I did actually come out though, you do feel a bit This is really mad, sorry, and I think it's like what like a Stockholm syndrome, right?
Mm.
So when I first did come out, all of a sudden you go from this 18-day journey where the only things you have to worry about is getting from camp A to camp B, and then when I'm not going to have my rice and beans and getting through the day. Then all of a sudden you go back into like the real world, and all the other hundred of problems in like 100 problems come in, and all of a sudden you got to think about the other problems. And I started to think, whoa, life was simple in Tempting Fortune. It was just wake up, eat food, go to sleep. And then, dude, it makes me think that's why all the tribes and stuff, they're all calm and content,
Yeah.
brother, because they don't have to worry about tax, rent, what job do I need. So it's actually mental. It makes you realize, yeah, okay, look, man, getting up and waking up to the sunlight and then, you know, eating your food and then sleeping, you could think, well, what's there to live for? But man, I'm telling you, yeah, if it's not like a psychological money game, there's a happiness involved in that, especially if you've got your own tribe. Do you know what I mean? You can entertain yourself, you can all make your own little theatre projects like the ancient Greeks used to do. But it was really interesting to see the way of coming back and being like, whoa, and it was like a giant come down. It was a giant come down for a bit, but then you just kind of start to ease back in and you get over it and stuff. I mean, Luke, that was on the show, he said it must have been mad for him because he got dropped back in the center of London. So we'd been on this mad journey, and he said, bro, I was just like in South Africa
Concrete
doing it.
jungle.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm just on the tube looking around at people like, you don't know what the fuck I've just been doing,
That
man.
must have been the weird. I hadn't even considered that transition period
Yeah, dude.
back into
Mm.
well, normal society. And then I imagine, like, obviously, you've just spent like what 18 days, like trekking through with these kind of like glamorized temptations
Yeah.
to then be smack bang into your normal day to day with all those like porn, like you know, gambling,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
smoking, drink, drugs, all those like normal things. Like, how long did it take you to kind of get back into kind of like your routine?
It took, dude. Well, if you want to get crude with it as well, like in terms of digestively, man, it took me a while, and
Yeah.
because we'd only ate rice and beans, eating anything like with sugar in it, yeah, you just let loose, man.
Yeah.
So for a good 2 weeks, my body had to adjust back to eating like your meats and stuff and everything else. But mentally, it did take a little while, man, because and you are offered sessions, by the way, with
Yeah.
therapists. The show do offer that because they are aware that you have just been on a once in a lifetime experience, and not everyone's going to have experience, so you can't speak about it to them
Mm.
fully knowing. But yeah, man, I'd say like about a month, dude, for me to fully be like, okay, we're back now, man. Not like every day I would have PTSD, but just more like you do walk around with this kind of like lost feeling. And when you're sitting around, I remember I met up with all my boys, we were watching like the boxing, and they're all talking. I just remember sitting there looking at the table, thinking about like what had happened in there. And it was kind of like, whoa, And I just felt like Tom Hanks in Castaway when he goes back, with the lighter, the light switch and stuff, man. But yeah, no, it was mad, man. But I definitely. Would you do it, bro?
Do you know what? It's if I ever got the opportunity, someone asked me this question probably about a year ago, and I think my answer would still be the same. I think the only reality TV show I think I would actually ever do would be Big Brother. Or obviously since watching that, because I think there's something about being tested like mentally in an environment that you're not used to, which I think is where you learn who you are. And I think I found what I was capable of. I mean, it wasn't on a TV show, it was in like doctors' waiting rooms, it was in like hospital settings when everything was happening with my mom, that I really learned just how resilient, how capable I was.
Wow.
And I think it's good to test yourself. It's good to put yourself in an environment, whether it works or whether it's not, because either way, you're going to learn something. Like I'm kind of like over this whole kind of like victim mentality kind of thing of people like sitting it and feeling like kind of sorry for the situation that they're in, because which I'm only saying this from personal experience. Like I know it's very, very difficult to get out of. But it's almost kind of taking the lesson over the loss. And it's kind of like, okay, what can I do? How can I change this? What have I learned from it? And it took a long time to get to that point. But I just kind of like, right, come on now, like, how do we move forward? Then that was a bit of a rant and a
Bro,
half.
no, I completely agree with you. I think that's really cool as well that you'd want to do something like that, because not everyone wants to throw themselves into situations like that, man. And I think Big Brother would be hard on Tempted Fortune in certain ways, and I think in more in a toxic way. And I think because on the days of Tempted Fortune where we didn't have to hike and you'd just be stuck in a camp together, and say if you'd had arguments, and you can just feel the toxicity of the tension. Big Brother, there's
no escape.
There's no escape. Whereas Tempting Fortune, you could go on an 8-hour hike, and after an 8-hour hike, you don't want to argue with anyone. You want to go to bed. You're tired. Your emotions have gone now. In Big Brother, you're just stuck with them, aren't you? It's like a giant pressure cooker. That's sick, though, bro. I want you to go on it. I'd love to go on it as well, because for me, Big Brother's the OG one.
Can you imagine if like
we fucking imagine
walk down those stairs? I'm like, for fuck's sake, here we go.
We just both end up nominating each other on the first week.
Hate him. Get him out.
Yeah. That would actually be sick, man. I loved that era though. That like old school era of reality TV, man. Like,
it was normal, weren't it? It just like there was so many kind of together. That's what I enjoyed about Tempting Fortune, because there was like very well represented. There was something like anyone could relate to.
It wasn't, and
that's what I think the original like Big Brother was. Like there was so many different walks of life, real characters. Speaking of kind of like coping mechanisms, stuff like that, one of my biggest coping mechanisms is music. Now, obviously, you're quite the talented singer-songwriter. You can pull that face.
No, I wouldn't see. But singers are weird one, because I wouldn't say I've just found notes that I can hit and then I work on them. Do you know what I mean?
You play to your strengths.
Yeah.
You play to your strengths. How did that start? Like, is it just because I've had people on the show before that have said like, they fell in love with an instrument, not like physically, like some Channel 5 documentary. Like they played an instrument, they loved it, they carried on with it, or they went to see someone perform and they were like, I want to do that. How did that kind of little musical journey start?
Well, I think just being like a creative person and loving performing and entertaining and stuff, right? I think naturally you just naturally love those sort of creative outlets. Yeah, music was always a thing, but it came about really from like I first started rapping when like I was probably in like year 8, and like I'd watch loads of rap battles and like American rap and stuff like that. And at first I'd write a rap and do it almost like in a class clown way, knowing that people would laugh. But then it got to a point where I was actually really like going in on my raps and wanting them to be taken seriously, sort of thing, man. And eventually it did get to a point where it started crossing over from being like, oh, he's taking the piss, to like, okay, shit actually sounds hard. And it just so happens that my older cousin, Harry Georgio, was already on his music journey, been doing music, and worked at a studio called HQ in Leicester. And like, And then I just was like, bro, I've started rapping. He was like, oh yeah. Then he was like, let's hear. And then I did it, and he realized, oh, okay, you can actually rap, yeah. And then we just started making music together, which led on to its whole other journey within itself, man. So that's it. What sort of music do you listen to? I know it's a
Well,
really
to be
big range,
fair,
probably.
I'm quite the rapper myself.
Okay, let's
So
go.
I have a feature
Sick.
on my first single with Sean Paul.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
No,
I had
I
him on
didn't
the
know. I
show,
was
and we did a little song.
really?
Yeah,
That's it.
I literally, because it was that kind of like mentality of like, I'm probably never going to get this moment again.
Hell
So I
yeah,
thought,
dude.
can you change the lyrics to I don't really care what people say, to start waffling with Tay. And
Yeah.
then I did like my first live show, and I like my friend Alex, he's like a singer-songwriter. Like we just had to play around with it, and kind of like we turned it into like a little bit of a like 1 minute song.
That's actually legendary, bro. That's
So I have a song with Sean
legendary,
Paul.
bro. That is
He
sick,
doesn't know it,
dude.
but
Yeah, you got it, mate. Don't worry about that. That is a certified
um
banger.
what is to fair to answer your question, like I would listen to anything. I will
Yeah.
pull on like there's like certain Adele songs if I'm like in my feels, like the lyrically, like the way she kind of like writes her songs, really kind of like soundtrack
God, love
certain
seeing that.
moments of my life. Same with Amy Winehouse. Um,
Amy, oh man, what a legend.
yep, I took one of the biggest lessons that I've ever learned from a Jay-Z song, all about life isn't about, I can't even think about it. The song's called Smile anyway. It's about his mom, about life isn't about losses. Um, it's all about the lessons. Something I can't.
You really relate to it, don't
Yeah,
you? I could
but
see
it's
that in
that's what I
your
mean.
eyes.
It's like there's just something about like lyrics and stuff that really kind of, that they say what I can't say. And I mean, I'm not musically talented in the slightest, but to have that kind of outlet that someone else has kind of like poured their heart into, like their music, I think for music, yeah, music for me just makes me feel like I'm not on my own, because there's someone else that going out there like singing or pouring their heart into a lyric that I'm like, okay, they're going through it as well.
100%. I think that's why people love me. You know, you get to hear an expression of how you feel, and on top of that, it's done in a melodic way that even hits you, like hits you
Mhm.
even more, man. And you can listen to it, you can have it, you can play it in the moments that you need it most. Um, Music's a beautiful thing, man. Like music can change. It's crazy, man. You can play it from. There's songs that I listen to that can actually make me sad but happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
They
Just
take you back to those moments, don't
yeah,
they? And there's
it's a
like,
connection.
yeah, and to be fair, there is like tracks on those albums and stuff that take me right back to a time when, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I was ready to throw in the towel.
Mm.
So to now sometimes listen back to those songs is actually quite painful, but it's also a really nice reminder. Actually, at that moment, I didn't think I was going to be able to get to this point. So it's almost soundtracked that kind of the journey, like that stepping stone for me at that time when I thought this is an obstacle. It wasn't an obstacle. It was a stepping stone for me to get to where I need to. What songs do you listen to? Oh, not songs. Like what kind of like music style do you go to?
Do you know what, dude? Honestly, I really range, man, and like it's not like I actually like to listen to just things that make me feel like I'm in a movie. There's like a really I don't know. Have you ever heard of the
Oh,
film Taxi Driver
yeah,
with
the one
Robert
with
De
the
Niro
yes,
from
yeah, yeah,
time
yeah.
ago? The theme song in that is just like a saxophone, right? And every time I listen to it, it makes me feel good and content. It's like this beautiful like peace. You just want to be cruising in the late night, just
Mm,
like stuff like that. But you know, it depends. Like I can wake up and be like, "Yo, I'm gonna listen to loads of reggaeton and just get into it," or it it's all about mood, isn't it, man? But I can listen to like just pieces of music, man. Just like take it on a journey without lyrics as well. It's such a. I always say it's the hardest question. So when I ask people, "What's your favorite song?" I don't say that anymore. I say, "If I was to put your headphones in right now, what have you been listening to recently?"
God.
Do you know what I mean? So what would that be for you? Like last thing.
um, in all honesty, to be fair, the last song I listened to was I think it was Beyonce, Virgo's Groove.
Yeah, let's go.
I think it was
Okay.
just a bit like I'm in a bit of a R&B era at the minute. Like
Yo,
I'm a
dude,
big
same.
fan of like, I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name's Olivia Dean.
I've heard of the name, but
Oh,
I wouldn't be able to know the.
I was lucky enough to see her at Glastonbury, and I'm telling you
This
now,
year?
yeah,
Did you go? Oh, my
yeah.
sister went as well.
Oh
Did you
my
see
God.
Elton John?
Yes.
Was it insane?
Yes.
Because it looked insane from.
We didn't realize like how big it actually was until like
Yeah.
afterwards. We like saw photos and
It
stuff
was. It
afterwards.
looked incredible. So to be there
Oh,
must have been
it was
amazing.
magic. It was honestly, this is going to sound really sad. For those 5 days, it was probably the happiest I've been in about 10 years.
Wow.
Because I felt I've never been there. It was the first time I've ever been, and all these people who I know that have been have always said you've never experienced anything like it. I was like, I've done festivals before. I know what I'm doing. But before I went, I was really self-conscious because I've put quite a bit of weight on. I was just really not feeling in the good space, like mentally. And then when I got there and having 5 days of not checking my phone, I wasn't like scrolling through social media. I didn't really have a mirror to check what I was looking at, like what I was looking
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah.
And
See,
then I felt freedom.
free.
Having music, it was hot. It was literally, it was, yeah. And today, even talking about it, like I feel like I'm getting all goosebumps
Yeah,
because
man.
I felt freedom for the first time in probably about 10 years.
Well, dude, you gotta think what you did. You just went out there for 5 days listening to music and being like literally not giving a shit about anything, man. Like, and then you felt good for 5 days,
Yeah.
man. I'm happy for you that you had that escapism, bro. And that's why, again, like I was saying, like we don't get enough of it. We don't get enough escapism, man. Even in those, like you need it. Even if it's even if it's fucking hiking, bro. Just go on a hike down a hill, man. Get around nature. We'll go to Glastonbury. You know?
I mean, it's easier to go on a hike than it is. I'm trying 15 years to get tickets. It's
Yeah,
took me.
man. So that's insane. So like, I've heard like really annoying stories about that where people thought they've got them and they haven't. And I've done Boomtown.
Yeah.
You ever been
I
Boomtown?
haven't, but I've heard that is an experience and a half. I don't think, isn't it more than music? It's all,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a whole like artificial village that just like you don't even have to be off your face to be
Yeah.
to feel like you're tripping there. Do you know what I mean? One of those, man. I don't think I've got it in me to again now, man. I think it gives me anxiety
Yeah.
thinking about it now. When I was 18, you didn't care, man.
No.
Like I know I'm 26, but like just you just know it's just intense, man.
What does escapism look like for you now?
Do you know what, bro? I'm gonna say traveling. I'm gonna say like exploring the world, man. For me, I'm a really big nerd, bro. Like I'm really into ancient history, I'm into culture, I'm into languages. I will literally stay in my room learning the most random languages and then literally if I get a chance and find someone that speaks it, I will speak it. And like that's just what I like to do, man. And so, things like going to see the pyramids would be an escapism for me. Things like going to just countries and stuff. I've started to realize I'm struggling to find escapism in normal in just day-to-day life now. So that's why I think I've got this calling to travel.
Yeah.
I think I want to do something with it as well. I think I want to just get a GoPro and go around and just like, have you ever seen these videos on YouTube where you've got like these travelers that would just take a GoPro and they'll just literally, it's like a POV styled thing where they'll walk
Yeah.
through the streets of these countries. That's what I'm planning to do, man.
Mate, honestly, do it. Like, it's not a similar thing, but I used to be so scared of like doing stuff like that, like getting out my comfort zone, going to new places. One, because of like, well, I didn't want anyone else to think I was a weirdo, not weirdo, but like going off and doing these things. And because like, oh, I'm scared to do that. And it wasn't until having conversations like this that I like the fire for me just continues to kind of get like brighter and like hotter and stuff because I'm just like, well, yeah, we should be doing these things. We should be going off and experiencing it. Like we get one fucking shot at this.
Yeah, dude.
So it's like we need to be making the most of it.
This is what scares the shit out of me, Like that went I'd say now more than ever is when I'm really I think because I've just gone past 25 and now it's like, right, okay, well the next roundup is 30. I think now more than ever I'm starting to really think about my future more. And it's really quite intense. It really is quite intense. You start like just questioning everything. And it gets a bit wild, man. I think that's the main thing that's on my mind at the moment.
It's a tough one to navigate though, isn't it? Because like I turned 30 in lockdown and there was an element of like, all my friends were getting married, having kids, like doing all these things. And I used to think I was wrong for not wanting those things. So then it's got to this stage now where I was like, well, I've seen what the worst can do. Like my mum was the most active woman. Like she was 47 when all this happened. And and now she needs 24-hour care. Like, life for her is probably not what she expects it to be. And I'm so scared of getting to a point where if something similar was to happen to me, or even getting to an age of like 90, if I'm lucky enough to live that long, and regretting things that I could have done because I was too scared to do them.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. This is exactly that, dude. It's exactly that. And I think with that, we can't live in fear, can we, though, every day? Because it will eat you up. Like you were saying about the days where you felt like you just wanted to throw the towel in and stuff. So, like, would you say you feel, I mean, I guess no one ever feels 100% better, right? Yeah, but where would you say you are on a level of how you feel now compared to how you were felt then?
So when I first kind of started, I guess like 4 or 5 years ago, the fear overtook everything.
Yeah.
Whereas from having conversations like this and like connecting with people, and learning so much about myself, the fear of not doing it outweighs the fear of doing it for me now.
Yeah. I love that, dude.
Oh God, I don't think I've ever said that out loud.
Yeah, that's good. There you go.
I felt a little bit emotional
Yeah,
there.
there it is, bro.
Oh,
Speak it.
if there was someone listening to this now and not necessarily been on like a similar journey to you as yourself, like who was having a bit of a shit day, what advice would you give them?
Bro, do you know what? I want advice. I want advice, bro. Come on.
Send them into.
Do you know what? I'm gonna say the most cliche thing, man. I'm gonna say the most cliche thing. Everyone's gonna be like, "Yo, gym, bro." But fuck, go to the gym or something. Work your body. We spend all our we spend our days just filling our body with stuff to give us these synthetic highs and dopamine hits, man. But the real natural ones are the ones that come from working the body. Take it back to the ancient days, brother. Do you know what I'm saying? Take it back to those times of like, what were they doing? They were acting, they were doing physical sport, they were doing poetry and stuff, man. So I just think just do things that involve natural highs, man, natural dopamine hits, not the shit, not fucking going out and getting fucked up. Everyone likes to go out and get a little fucked up, man. Come on, like, who are we kidding? But it's the vices that we're given, just try and find something. But again, I'm trying to find it too. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? I'm nowhere near where I'm still trying to find it. I'm still on a journey, man. Like, I would be lying if I said I've got it all figured out because I really don't. So if anyone else out there has some good, please feel free. But just that, man. Keep yourself active, brother. Like, do you know what I mean? Just
yeah.
yeah, man.
You know what? This has been a real kind of like pleasure
I
to
appreciate it,
thingy.
man.
But I do have 3 final questions for you.
Okay, six.
So the first one is, I mean, I can't imagine it takes you a lot. I mean, I've seen your Instagram, you've done the dancing in the rain and the workouts and stuff. But is there a song that needs to be playing to get you on the dance floor?
To get me on the dance
Yeah.
floor. Oh, mate, like, do you know what I do love? I do love that 1970s sort of funk and soul and like, yeah, do like
Yes.
like MJ's sort of disco
Yes.
albums, perfect, that you can't ever beat that. There's a lot of things though, like reggaeton as well. Reggaeton like can just get me going as well, man. That gets you moving your body in all sorts of ways as well. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, to get on the dance floor, stuff like that, man, with a bit of groove, a bit of funk to it, man, gets me moving.
Love that. On the flip side of that, is
Hmm.
there a song that you may lean to or an album that kind of pulls that emotion out for you?
Dude, if we want to take it to an artist that I love and take like Mac Miller, man. Mac Miller.
Ooh.
I know. I
Mm.
grew up listening to him in the skate park and literally followed his whole journey. And like, so when And actually, yeah, yeah, but like he just that really hits me. So like his first kids album, like all of that, and then just going through to all his stuff now. For a while I couldn't listen to it because I felt like it just really hurts me to know that he went out that way, man. But
Mhm.
anything with Mac really hits me because I also I feel like I relate to him a bit as well,
Mm.
man. Because he was also a guy that looked like he had everything, but still like there was something there, man. That
Yeah.
like obviously some sort of hole he was trying to
Mhm.
fill, man. So I
It's
dig
weird that
Mac.
it's weird that you say that because when everything happened with my mum, I booked a trip to Bali just to go and have like a pure escapism in an environment I've never been to. And one of the songs that was soundtrack to that holiday for me was Dang with
Oh,
Addison
banger.
Pack.
Yeah, banger. It's crazy, man. I was in LA when it happened, man, and I remember thinking out there when I was there, wouldn't it be amazing if like I met someone like Matt? And then
Yeah.
I remember I was actually on a date, you know, with a girl, and we were chilling in this swimming pool, and I remember just one of the girls on the other side just went, "Oh my god, what the fuck? Mac Miller's just died," and I was like, "What? Are you serious?" Like, and I actually couldn't believe it, and I remember like all the energy in the date just went. And I know that sounds with people are saying, why do you care about people like that much? And like, nah, it's different, man. This was someone that you've literally grown up listening to, like, you know, you've looked like, so it just killed the vibe, man. And she could tell I was like, I gotta go home, you know, like this is whack, man. Like, so yeah. So that's that for sure, man.
No, I respect that. If there was a song that you would put in a box, wrap chains round, kick it to the bottom of the ocean, never hear it again, what would it be?
That's a sick question, bro. That's so cool. Oh man.
And there's no beef, like there's no like, I'm not gonna like pull the artist out of the door or anything. Like, well, you can tell them
Could it
to
be
their
like
face
a
there.
guilty pleasure? Because I do love a bit of Pink.
Okay, you
No,
know,
it's that song. What is it, man? It's Pills or something. Where I can run as fast as I can. Yeah, I love that, mate. I love that. That's a
well, you'd
banger.
never listen to that again.
No, I'd listen to it again. Well, what do you mean by throw it away?
So
Is it so no
basically-
one can know that I've listened to it?
No. So
Oh,
you
okay.
it could be a range of things. Like you're sick of it, like it's overplayed. Like we've had people come on and say like
Oh.
Crazy Frog, Who Let the Dogs
Yeah,
Out. Someone
yeah.
said Old Town Road. Like I've had like a wide range of answers to this.
I know what to say, bro. I'm sending Baby Shark to the depths of the ocean. To
I
David Jones,
recorded
like,
yesterday with someone, and they said exactly the same thing.
That's demonic, but all right, that's shit. It's weird that there's something about it. So how does it get stuck in someone's head after one word like that? It's weird. There's something going on with that. That one needs to go to the bottom depths. David Jones
of the ocean and stay there.
Yeah, man, for sure. But yeah, man, that was a good way to like. I don't know if
No, honestly, mate, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you,
to waffle with you. Like you're gonna have to come back and we'll deep dive on the aliens.
Yo, man, we'll do it, bro. We'll do it.